Thus far, An Honest Look in RWBY has been focused on character breakdowns, but I have retconned a few other videos to be part of the series. That's mostly because the Honest Look moniker didn't really become a thing until I did my RWBY Honest Look, and the series is more than that. I came up with the Honest Look moniker to lure unsuspecting viewers into clicking on my coffee rant, and it grew into what it is today from there. In this video, I'll be talking about fight scenes. Not all of them, and not the mechanics of the fight scenes, but more of the philosophy behind the fight scenes, and why I feel the way I feel about them. RWBY is the brainchild of one Monty Oum, who fashioned himself a rock star animator who first rose to prominence through the animated short Haloid and the Dead Fantasy series. Monty had a very limited understanding of what goes into a fight scene. If you want something deeper, I highly recommend Super Eye Patch Wolf's video titled What Makes a Fight Scene Interesting. Anyone with any kind of interest in action scenes needs to watch that video. But to summarize the points, the characters have to have a reason to fight. There have to be clearly defined stakes, even if they're small. Those stakes need to be predicated on who wins and loses. There has to be physical narrative, which is the actual planning and executing of blows and such. And there needs to be an emotional narrative, the story and character beats that happen as a direct result of the fight. After that, lighting, cinematography, music, sound design, effects, and choreography add flavor to the fight scenes. So, Monty's fights, they're all flavor. If the Luke vs. Vader fight from Return of the Jedi is a full-course meal from a 5-star restaurant, then Pura vs. Cardinal, Velvet vs. the Mech, or the every single second of Dead Fantasy is like taking a swig of soy sauce and calling it a day. But this isn't always true. This isn't like math where finding a single scenario where the rule doesn't work doesn't mean you have to throw out the entire rule. There's plenty of fights in RWBY that have moments that are more than just flavor. And a few of them even achieve the same heights that the best in the industry can offer, though those examples are few and far between. The Red trailer, for instance, does a good job building on the questions its initial audience already has, and since it's a trailer, it doesn't need a lot of substance, just the inklings of substance. RWBY's cheeky little smile as she cuts a Beowulf in half is all the proverbial protein that action scene needed. The White trailer is also a brilliant example of this, and quite possibly the best thing Monty ever had a hand in. It perfectly reflects Weiss' internal struggle and character arc into both the action beats of the fight and the musical beats of the song, all building to the acceptance, or rather admittance, that she's not perfect, needs to be stronger, is broken, and needs to find a way to fix herself, which she does throughout the course of the show. The reason why the Black and Yellow trailer don't work nearly as well is because it never lets any of that sink in. We never see a moment of Blake struggling. There's a disconnect between her motives, her actions, and the lyrics of the song, and Yang's theme doesn't even start until over 4 minutes into a nearly 6-minute video, and I'll get to the rest of that trailer's problems in the next Honest Look. I think if I had to boil RWBY down to its key components, good and bad, and pick a single scene where all that is on display, it would be the Players and Pieces fight scene. It was created just to remind everyone that this is supposed to be an action show. The actual plot threads that connect the action beats are laughably bad. Kill it, kill it, kill it. There's some good character beats that add a lot, but there's some that don't. The big action beats are well conceived and admirably executed, but everything in between is just pointless. And that's a big problem in many of these fight scenes. Just as an example, I took a universally beloved action scene that Monty spent a lot of time on. I edited it to only keep beats that highlight characterization, development, strategy, and or plot progression. Much shorter, right? In many action scenes, less is more. To bring up the Star Wars example, the Luke vs. Vader fight in Return of the Jedi is universally praised, but the Anakin and Obi-Wan fight in Revenge of the Sith, though still beloved, gets a lot of flack for being too long. The truth is that they're both about the same length. The difference is that the Jedi fight has a lot more going on under the hood, which you can find here. Every single beat in the episode 6 fight is vital. Speaking of vital, the tournament arc in RWBY blows. I plan on doing a separate video detailing the story and character reasons why this whole 5-episode stretch kinda sucks, but a lot of it is tied to the action. Or rather, it's not tied to the action, and that's what sucks. Boil down this fight to its important elements and you'd be left with this.
Upset.
And this problem is only highlighted when the show tries explaining something. This show is impressively bad at delivering exposition. It'd be funny if it wasn't so sad. The show has to grind to an absolute halt anytime it delivers exposition, and since the writers make things up as they go, that exposition is neither well conceived nor well implemented. My Hero Academia has gotten a lot of righteous praise for its action scenes. The characters feel human, where any damage can result in permanent damage, but more importantly, the characters talk while fighting instead of separating the two into different moments. A lot of shonen battle series, even the good ones, have talking, fighting, then more talking, then more fighting, rinse, lather, repeat until finished. My Hero Academia blends all these disparate elements together into every punch, creating some of the most memorable action scenes in recent memory. And this is something Kohei Horikoshi picked up from his most obvious predecessor, Masashi Kishimoto, the creator of Naruto. Naruto at its best had action scenes built around mental beats of strategy with jutsu and techniques that had super specific uses. Kishimoto would blend these action beats and thematic beats, character beats, and at its absolute best both at the same time. RWBY doesn't really have any of that, or rather, it didn't. Not to show my whole hand at once, but my original intent with this video was to disprove the notion that Monty was the only good animator at Rooster Teeth. A lot of people point to Volume 3, but that's not good enough. Monty still worked on many of the Volume 3 scenes, and those are some of the best scenes. No, to show just how far the show has really come, I have to defend Volume 4's action scenes. Just not this one, thank God, because this one is just absolute trash. The Petra Giga fight isn't perfect. It lacks a good end and there's some questionable beats, but it does show the team dynamic for Ranger. Gives Nora an upgrade, and has story beats with John that build into the next scene where he gets his new armor. The Sea Dragon fight, and this is the definition of a backhanded compliment, is a fight scene that, if cut out, works completely fine on its own with its own beginning, middle, and end, while also not doing anything to add or take away from the story at hand. The whole fight with Tyrion is the first legitimate time one of the main characters has been in real danger. The only time that even comes close is the stuff with Adam in Volume 3, but that's never given time for tension to build, which is actually its strength because it's not the loss that sends Yang into depression, it's the rapidity, the utter humiliating way in which he lost that sends her down her path. And instead taking the tension away with the Deus Ex, it keeps building for several more episodes as Crow's fate has a big red question mark over it. And it's only resolved when Team Ranger stands on its own against the Nuklavi and wins, and in doing so gain the attention of Mistral Patrols, that they all get to safety. Even something like Yang's training scene with Tai peppers in character growth and development, even if it does fall into that same talk fight routine that infects most shonen action series. Monty never wrote action scenes out. He'd make them up as they go. This works for something devoid of meaning like Dead Fantasy, and it works for making an animated GIF. It also helps keep continuity with the scene because you're always thinking about what comes next rather than how do you get from point A to point B. But the only downside to writing out these action scenes is that it's Miles writing them out and he'd forget his own ass if his head wasn't playing cricket with his colon. In summation, RWBY's action scenes would be scoring more C's than the Mexican hooker. There's a lot of potential there between dust, crazy weapons, and semblances all being used as tools for characters to use. The writers have even admitted to having problems with pacing, and this is part of it. They are improving, they are moving forward, they are getting better. Think about that before you claim to know better than the writers because you let Monty-stalgia blind you into thinking Dead Fantasy was worth a damn. I'm criticizing Monty Oum on the internet. I'm gonna get crucified!